Some women are embarrassed that they don't know more about their finances. It's nothing to be ashamed of that you haven't had time to put the energy and the effort into learning that.
In this episode of Conversations Beyond the Brand, Tashana Thompson sits down with Selena Teasley, a certified financial planner and wealth advisor who left a 14-year IT career to help women move from financial shame to financial clarity.
What was the moment in your personal journey where you started to look at wealth and finances differently?
So I was in corporate, I was in IT. I was making really, really good money and I was traveling the world. I was living my best life. But I read an article online. It was like, if you're this age, you should have this much in your 401k. And when I saw my age versus how much I had in my 401k, the numbers were drastically different. So that's when I started kind of digging a little bit into, okay, this is my retirement. This is where I am right now. I started just kind of running some basic numbers, like kind of playing it backwards. I was like, I might not be able to retire at this rate. It's changed how I work with women because now we're not chasing an age, we're chasing a lifestyle.
Ooh.
So it's like, okay, if we don't know what age to retire, what's that lifestyle look like, right? What do you want to be able to do? What do you want the option to do? What does freedom look like for you at that age?
What are your thoughts on debt repayment versus beginning to save and invest?
Um,
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations Beyond the Brand. I'm your host, Tashana Thompson, and I'm super excited for today's conversation. One of the things I'm always super focused on in business and in working with my clients is legacy and wealth. What is it all for if we are not here to make money and create freedom and legacy for ourselves? Today's guest is the perfect person to help us start this conversation about freedom, legacy, wealth, all the things. I'm so excited to have you today. Welcome to the podcast, Selena Teasley.
hey, hey, so excited to be here. I've been looking forward to
Hi.
this.
I cannot wait to dig into this conversation. I know that people are absolutely going to love you and the frameworks that you teach. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get deep.
All righty. So I am a wealth management advisor and I primarily work with women. So I'm a certified financial planner and I'm a retirement income specialist. I've been in the business for about 7 years. Prior to this, I was in IT. I was in IT about 14 years. So those are two totally different worlds. But I decided to make that shift when I started looking how to grow my own money. And I was looking around for help and I couldn't find anyone that I felt like understood me personally. And so in true Leo fashion, since I couldn't find I couldn't find what I was looking for, I decided to become that person because I've always been financially inclined. I've always liked the stock market and different things like that. But since I was so tired of my career, I didn't give it a lot of thought. And so that was like a pivotal moment in my life to just like, I'm going to switch careers totally and go for more of something that's a passion for me. And so I made that shift 7 years ago and I'm loving it.
Oh, it's such a great story. When I met you, I instantly loved you, Leo gang. I always surround myself with other Leos. But one of the things that I immediately noticed about you was your heart for women and your heart for really teaching us how to build financial freedom. And that's not something that a lot of women, I think about the conversations that I have with my clients. Some of them are very, very uncomfortable talking about money.
Yes. Hmm. Yep. And I see that a lot too. One, it's a fear thing. Sometimes we're scared of it. Sometimes we don't want to, like I say, rip that band-aid off. A lot of times there's a lot of shame in past decisions that we've made. But I gotta tell people it's not about the past, it's about the future, right? It's about deciding what you want today and then putting a plan in place to go after that. And so having that shame of having that reluctance is only going to keep you where you are right now. And so
Mhm.
my job is to help you move forward to where you really want to be. So yeah, I see it a lot as well.
Yeah. What do you think makes women so reluctant to talk about money? Is it just the shame or um
A
yeah,
lot a lot of it is shame, but and this is from what I've been told, not from just what I think.
right.
Some women are embarrassed that they don't know more about their
Mhm.
finances. So when I started hearing that, kind of took me by surprise because for one, I'm not embarrassed that I'm not a doctor and I don't know about my own body, right? I have a doctor for that. I don't
Right.
know about my teeth. But when it comes to like your finances, for whatever reason, we feel like we're just supposed to know. And so I have to let them know, like, it's a lot that goes into, finances and growing money and things like that. And it's nothing to be ashamed of that you haven't had time to put the energy and the effort into learning that. Right. And so I was surprised when I was hearing that, like, I'm embarrassed that I don't know. And I'm like, why? I'm not embarrassed that I don't know your job, but a lot of
Right.
that is embarrassment, but a large part of that too it is the shame of past decisions, of credit card debt, of where we currently are, of not being in the position that we want to be in, right?
Right.
And so that's why sometimes we're reluctant to reach out and we're reluctant to get information and figure out how to move forward because sometimes fear keeps us stuck. And so the fear of the unknown, is why a lot of women are reluctant to have these conversations.
Right. And I think also it's the fear of and the embarrassment to your point of like having made really poor choices at moments, right? And we look at our situation and look at the fact that we're making really good money and we might have Louis or Gucci,
Mhm,
but we don't have, a fully funded emergency fund or um, a fully funded, we're not investing or
mhm,
contributing to retirement accounts like we should. And I know you're here to help me lay down this embarrassment and shame for women. I've been very public in sharing my own journey of, filing for bankruptcy several years ago, almost a decade ago now. And the shame that comes with that, because I know that the women you work with are like the women that I work with, and they're brilliant,
mhm,
educated, high achieving women. And to have this blind spots
mhm,
is devastating and embarrassing for us.
mhm.
And I'll say us because I've been there. On any given day, I'm still there. So that's why this topic is like so near and dear to my heart.
Mhm. Good, yeah.
So,
Mhm,
and another thing, some women, if they're married, they sometimes abdicate responsibility of financial affairs to their partners.
yes. Mhm. I've seen that a lot. I actually had one lady tell me, "Oh, I'm sure my husband has my retirement taken care of." That was the first time I had heard that. But yes, because we have so many other responsibilities, sometimes we just feel like, okay, he just needs to take that, right? He needs to be responsible for that. But that's dangerous because we need to make sure that we're okay. Well, yes, that is something that especially my married clients, I did see that in the beginning where they were kind of involved, but when I started asking questions, they really didn't know the full picture. And like I said, if something happens to him, or God forbid something happens to the relationship, you need to make sure that you're going to be okay at the end of the day. So for my married ladies, it's not really a good way to look at it. Even though, yeah, you should be, taking care of most of that, you should at least be aware of what's going on and how things are happening.
Right. My husband and I are involved in this marriage ministry. Check out Synergy, y'all. And this month we're talking all about finances. And we have like a little bit of a non-traditional role. And I'll use traditional with all the quotes because yeah, I don't necessarily subscribe to that. But I handle all the finances for our household.
Mhm,
I love it. Like
mhm,
that's look, this is why you're here while we having this conversation because I love like planning and budgeting and all those things. I'm not
mhm.
so much.
Right.
So whatever the role is, the other if you're in a partnership, the other person should know how to
Right.
access accounts,
Right.
pay bills, do the things because you don't want something to happen, even if it's an illness or they have to go take
Mhm.
care of a parent
Right. Yep.
and you don't know.
Right. And it's all about knowing. It doesn't matter who handles, because
No.
households women do it and some households and men. It doesn't matter. Like I'm not partial or pro either way. My
Yeah.
whole thing is I'm pro education and I'm pro you should know. So like you said, if he got sick, you at least need to know how to go in and pay the mortgage. What's the username and password to the website? That's it. Just make sure that you know everything that's going on in the financial house. So
Absolutely. So, what was the moment in your personal journey where you started to look at wealth and finances differently?
It's kind of what you said earlier. So I was in corporate, I was in IT. So I was making really, really good money and I was traveling the world. I was living my best life.
Mhm.
But I read an article online. It was like, if you're this age, you should have this much in your 401k. So I was like, oh, let me go check. And when I saw my age versus how much I had in my 401k, the numbers were drastically different.
Mhm.
And so that's when I started kind of digging a little bit into, okay, this is my retirement. This is where I am right now. I started just kind of running some basic numbers, like kind of playing it backwards. I was like, I might not be able to retire at this rate. So I was like, I think I need a little help. And that's when I started looking for a professional. But it was that article. It was just like I think it's like at 30 something, you should have this amount of your 401
Yep.
40. You know how those articles come
Yes.
out, So I was like, let me go see what I got. It was not the number that was in that article. And it put me
Listen,
nervous. So I was like, let me get some help with this.
I love that. I literally was just watching a video with my husband last week where, you know, I watch all this personal finance stuff on YouTube, and they were telling the breakdown. I said, "Ooh, we behind." Like, ooh. Those little things, those articles and those videos are really um a wake-up call.
Right. Yes. Yes. And I will say, like, it should be a wake-up call and it should just make you aware, but don't let it give you the anxiety of being behind, right? Because everybody's situation is totally different. So you may need a certain number, right? But my family may not need that number, but in the article, it's just general.
Yeah.
So let it serve as like let me figure out what my number is more than like me. It was just like, oh my God, I'm supposed to have this amount. So it's just guidelines, right? But everybody's personal situation is different. I like them because they just serve as just awareness of, okay, I'm not here. Where should I be? Right.
Right.
For my personal situation.
And how do I get there? And
And
that's
how
the
do
thing.
I get there? That's the most important part. Yep.
There's always, you know, an opportunity to make another choice.
Yes. Hmm.
As long as we're here, we get to make another choice.
Yes.
One of the things that really struck me about my first interaction with you is when you introduced me into this term, work optional.
Hmm.
And I have been so intrigued ever since. And tell me what that really means to you.
So, why I really started using the term work optional, because most of my clients, when I would say, like, what age do you want to retire? I will get like the deer in headlight look. And they're like, well, I don't know because I actually enjoy what I do. So I'm not going to say, oh, at 62, I'm going to retire, or at 65, because if I'm in good health, I might want to continue to do it. And so they could really never give me a straight answer. And so it became a point of where let's get you to the point where if you wanted to make work optional, you could. And so when I phrased it like that, they were like, yeah, I like the fact that I can work, but whenever I get ready, I have the option to stop. And so that's kind of where that work optional was born. It's really giving women the option to stop whenever they get ready. Because now, I mean, there's no traditional retirement age,
Mm-mm.
right? It's really not. And so just preparing yourself for when you get tired or when you want the option to say that I'm done, that you actually can.
I love that. I love that. How has this defined how you work with women?
It's changed how I work with women because now we're not chasing an age, we're chasing a lifestyle.
Ooh,
So it's like,
hold on. Say it again for the people in the back.
right. So we're not chasing an age, right? We're chasing a lifestyle. So it's like, okay, if we don't know what age, we're trying to get to retire, what's that lifestyle look like? Right? What do you want to be able to do? What are some things? What do you want the option to do? What does freedom look like for you at that age? And we build towards that. So I'm not building towards 62, right? We're building toward a lifestyle number. So when we hit that lifestyle number, then you have the option to do what you want. That's really that true freedom is when you get to that lifestyle number.
Mm. That's really the true freedom, excuse me, when you get to the lifestyle number. I love this. It really is like a whole paradigm shift, right? And it makes you approach everything, I think, a bit differently when you want, and it takes off some of the pressure almost, right? Like, I don't have to be completely done, but
Mm,
if my work optional is I wanna work the first 6 months of the year, go
mm,
really, really hard, and be
mhm,
done, the last 6 months or the last quarter or whatever the case may be, it just opens up, like, so much conversation to be had
mhm. Yep.
about what freedom really
Mhm,
looks like. And, most of the folks that are, in my circle of influence are business owners.
mhm,
We don't have traditional 401ks and traditional um, work. We may say, okay, I might stop consulting, but I'll still keep speaking and
mhm,
teaching and writing or whatever the case may be. So this is offers a lot of room
mhm. That's a
to
good thing.
wiggle and have flexibility and freedom. So, walk us through a bit of how you frame this work optional situation. I'm calling it a framework.
Mhm.
That's what you call it, but that's what I'm calling it. How do you the pillars of this work optional framework? How do you define it?
So one, we have to get clear on what optional means to you. And so that's my favorite part of the whole process is in dreaming, right? If you could wake up tomorrow and work was optional, what would that look like? What was your life? What would your life look like? Right. So getting really clear on that because we have to be practical, right? We got to fund it some type of way. And so the first step is just figuring out what that lifestyle is and what we're trying to fund. And then once we have that lifestyle, the next part is to now we got to kind of rip the band-aid off. What resources do we have access to currently? And where are we? Like what do we have to make that happen? And so once we have the resources that we have access to, now we got to figure out the gap. So what's that gap in the lifestyle that we just dreamed about and the resources that we have access to right now? What are the pieces of the puzzle that we need to start to put together in order to get us closer to that lifestyle? And so once we have that mapped out, and then is how do we live in freedom, right? How do we live and be comfortable? Because sometimes we can dream about this lifestyle, but it's a little scary for me to say, so I'm going to stop working and I can actually do that full time. And it's like, yeah, and so I have to make sure that you're comfortable with once we get to this place, I'm gonna need for you to execute on the plan that we've put in place. And some people may be like, why is that a part of the framework? Yeah, when I get there, I'm definitely gonna, it's not that simple. It's not simple for us as women to just flip off a switch of I am this powerful woman. I'm going to work every day to now kind of chilling and relaxing, right? So making sure that we're thinking through those things and we're not retiring fully, we're retiring to something. So then finding what that next chapter looks like if work is now optional. What are we going to be doing every day? Because we're not going to sit home. We can't do that. So just being very clear on what the entire process looks like from start to finish.
Before we jump back in, have you ever felt like running your business means wearing so many hats? Like you're juggling everything at once? That's why we're proud to have Beyond Business Solutions as the sponsor of this episode. They help entrepreneurs like you stay organized, save time, and focus on what really matters, growing your business. If you're looking for your very own branding and marketing team that truly cares about helping you succeed, visit beyondsolutions.biz. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
I think that a lot of women, especially, Don't know how to relax,
Well,
don't know how to not work,
mm-mm.
especially Black women. We don't
Mhm.
know how to not be achieving,
Right.
um, something,
Right. Mhm.
something. So, especially highly educated, highly successful women, you can't put baby in a corner,
Right.
right? Like, you can't all of a sudden decide, "Yeah, that I'm doing nothing."
Mhm. That's why it's hard for us to say, "I'm gonna stop at 62." Like, that's like, that doesn't feel right,
It
right?
doesn't feel safe. It
Mhm.
doesn't
Feel
feel
like
safe.
safe. Right. So that's a part of the framework. How do we build in that safety so you feel safe to actually execute the plan that we've put in place? So that's
Right.
why it's the fourth part of the framework is live. Now we've put this plan in place and I've gotten you to this lifestyle. You got to feel comfortable to live in it, to walk in it, and know that you're okay.
You know, I'm gonna sit there for just a minute because I have family members who have retired and who contributed and have money, have paid off houses, and still won't do anything, still won't live.
Mhm.
And I was having a conversation with one of my family members. I was like, listen, you need to figure out what you're gonna do and go spend some of that money. Because if
Mhm.
you give it to me, I'm gonna spend it.
Right.
And I think that this is a conversation that we need to have. Like, when you get to this magical place that is freedom and work optional, the live piece is the most important part.
Right.
Because if you're still scared to live,
Mhm.
what is it all for?
Right. Exactly. You're gonna pass away with a huge mattress full of money that you never got to spend.
And let me tell you, and I've had this conversation with several people in my family, people are not going to have a problem. Whoever your beneficiaries are not going to be having a problem crying and weeping at your service and then spending your money.
Absolutely. As soon as that check hits. Yes, ma'am.
And will have it gone and have not done nothing to earn it, nothing to store it away, none of the work that it takes to build it.
Well,
Enjoy your life. All
mhm.
of this, like, we're having this conversation, and I'm going to be having a series of conversations like this to encourage you to make the right choices as you already are to enjoy your life.
Yes.
It is so short.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I just had to stop because what is it all for if
Right.
we don't do that part you just said,
Mm,
live?
right. Yep. What
So what are some of the early mistakes that you think that or you've seen women make when they're trying to build wealth and start, planning for retirement?
one, they don't know where to start. The 401k is if you're working, if you're W-2, it's accessible. So some women just start there. But as business owners, sometimes we don't know where to start because we don't have the traditional retirement plan. And so that's the biggest, kind of the biggest question I've gotten when I start working with women is, I know I'm supposed to be doing something, but I'm not. I know I'm supposed to be investing. But one, I don't know where. And two, I don't know what to invest in. And
Right.
so it's really that lack of education on the different type of accounts and the different type of investments and things like that that you have access to. So those are the two biggest things that I see that sometimes stops women from starting to build wealth.
Okay. I totally agree and I get that. Um One of the other things that I wonder, there's a lot of personal finance advice in the streets, in the
Mm,
internet streets.
yeah.
One of the pieces, we talked a bit earlier about making poor choices.
Hmm.
And for those of us who have debt,
Hmm.
I think that also may stop some from beginning to invest and beginning to, you know, make sure they're putting away money in that, at least fully funding their IRAs or whatever the case may be. What are your thoughts on debt repayment versus beginning to save and invest?
So it's super important. We have to get rid of the debt because depending on the interest rate, we could be losing money, right?
Right.
But I tell people it's not an all or nothing type thing. You can pay off debt, you can save, and you can invest all at the same time just with the right plan. And so I actually encourage people to, while they're paying off debt, it's to actually save some on the side. Because what happens is you're aggressively paying off this debt and you get it paid off and you don't have any savings. And then you have an emergency and you go right back in debt. And then it's just defeating, right? Because you've paid this debt off, but you had to put $3,000 on it because your water heater went out, right? And so now you're back in debt. And so, in order to get off that debt will, actually encourage, while you're paying off debt, save some on the side. And so when you get the debt paid off, you go debt free with an emergency fund already building. And then you can just focus your efforts over here. So it's not an all or nothing type of approach. I try to do it, simultaneously, knowing that we do need to focus on the debt just because the interest rates might be higher
Or
and you're going to lose money. But you also have to focus on your financial security as well, making sure that you have an emergency fund and things like that. So it's different levels to it on how you should be allocating your funds.
I love that you said that because so many, of the biggest teachers of personal finance out there will tell you if you have debt, you don't do nothing else but pay off the debt, right?
Mhm.
And if you're at a certain age, yeah, like you still have to be thinking about emergency funds. And to your point, if there is no emergency fund, then it's going to be an endless cycle of, oh well, the water heater went out. I need an HVAC. I need whatever. I'm gonna put it on cards as opposed to having the cash on hand to take care of those emergency needs.
Right. Yep. Yep. And I get the wisdom that's out there. It's good advice, right? We need to be debt free, but I've just seen it happen in practice, right? It's not
Absolutely.
theory. And so just from the people that I've worked with, once we got to the point where the debt is gone, but they have an emergency fund, it just feels so much better because you're not starting over. Now you're debt free, but you look at your bank account and it's zero. So like, oh, now I got to start this thing, right? But
Right.
it's possible to do it at the same time with more of a focus on the debt, right? But it is possible to do both. And I actually encourage both. You may spend a little bit more interest, yeah, but the peace of mind that you have seeing your emergency fund grow, and then the fact that you're debt free and you have a savings account, like when I get those texts and when I get those conversations, it just feels so much better, right? So, mhm.
Thank you for that because I think that even I've struggled with okay, aggressively paying off debt or fully funding my IRA or making sure we're saving, we're continuing to save. Those are things that there's so much advice out there that sometimes you don't know what to listen to.
Right, yeah. It's financial advice is great at scale, right? To
Mhm.
bring awareness, but personal finance is personal. Your situation is not going to be the same as my situation, right? There's a lot of factors that we have to look at when we're deciding all these things. If you're the sole breadwinner, right, you need to make sure that you have a stronger foundation. And if we have a little bit of debt, we'll tackle that, but sometimes we got to work on the foundation first because if something happens to you, the family is going to be in trouble, right?
Mhm.
So it
Mhm.
is personal. And I take each situation, situation, my situation, when making recommendations. It's hard to make a blanket recommendation like, oh, pay off all your debt because that situation may not warrant that in that moment. So,
I think that that is so the brilliance of you, right? Of addressing those situations, like you said, they're personal finance. So our situation, that me and my husband have are not going to it's not going to be the same as, you or my neighbor or whomever else. So I think that that's really important to make sure that we're tailoring solutions to the individual. Um, and that's what you do so well. So, how do you believe emotions and money mindset show up in the work that you do with women?
oh, goodness, it's a large part of what I do because money is emotional. Is when we don't have it, we're stressed, right? When we're not doing what we wanted, what we should be doing with it, we're stressed. It is so funny. I see both ends of the spectrum. Women that are still building, trying to get to that point, they have some of the same stresses that women who are at that point, right? Who
Right.
have money. And so Understanding just the psychology behind money has been very just instrumental in how I deal with some of my clients because money can be emotional, right? I've been in conversations where there's been tears behind just past mistakes and the fear of moving forward. So, emotions and mindset around money is definitely something that has to be addressed and sometimes tackled when having these conversations. So, it is super, super important.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, and it's hard. It's hard to have these conversations. I have similar conversations when I'm asking, the women that I work with, what are you looking to earn this year? What did you earn last year? Like, it's the same thing because what are we marketing for?
Right.
Right? What are we marketing to achieve and what are your sales goals? And sometimes it makes people freeze up, they
Mhm.
avoid it. Um, some people are overly ambitious and it's like, how do we find the middle? So I think there's so much emotion and psychology that comes into dealing
Yes.
with money.
Absolutely.
And then, you know what? I will add that, yeah, there's the emotion and the stressors of not having money, but there's also the emotion and the stressor of when you do have it, wanting to make sure that you're doing the right things.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter, money or
It's
no money.
both
It's
sides of the spectrum, right? Like,
stress. Yeah, maybe a little different, right? But it's still the same type of stress.
so I know that you work with women that are in two different stages of life. Um, from my understanding, some that are, still building wealth and others who are really nearing retirement.
Mhm.
What are the key differences in how you guide those two different stages of life?
So if we're still building wealth, so we're firmly in that second pillar, like how do we close the gap? And it's really the conversations about really all about closing the gap, right?
Mhm.
Creating a lifestyle, like what are we trying to, work towards? So that's large part of those conversations. But then my ladies who are like Selena, I have done the work and I'm ready to retire. I'm ready to make work optional. What does that look like? And it's really the fourth pillar, right? How do we live? How do we take what you've accumulated and make you feel comfortable and safe enough to actually spend the money? And so that conversation, those are fun conversations. Like I'm literally like, so where are we going this year on vacation? Don't
Right.
leave me like nowhere. You're going somewhere. Like you can spend the money. And so it's really about giving them permission to actually live the life that they've worked so hard to prepare for. And so the conversation are they're vastly different. So one is really an accumulation conversation, closing the gap. And the other one is let's spend the money, make sure it lasts until your last breath, but let's spend it and have fun along the way.
I love that. Spit it and have fun along the way. This
Yes.
resonates with me so much because I feel like, some people probably watch this and be like, Tashana, what does that have to do with branding and marketing and all that? But I feel like branding is like wealth in some ways. It's not about necessarily what you have at this moment, but
Mhm.
how intentionally you are trying to build. And the story that we tell about ourselves often mirrors money and how we feel about our overall brands, right? Like, how do we, to me, there's so much correlation and so much similarity. And one of the things I was thinking about, and I often talk to women entrepreneurs about, is like, okay, you're great at making money, but to your point, they haven't thought about how much this money is going to serve their overall bigger vision,
Mhm.
their bigger legacy.
Mhm.
And we talk a lot about brand legacy all the time, but financial legacy is part of the same equation.
Right. Absolutely. Mhm. What are we trying to leave behind? What do we want this to look like? Yep.
And what do we want our stamp to look like?
Mm.
What do we want it all to look like? So, um, what role does again this mindset piece? What role does mindset play in becoming truly work optional?
Um, it's more permission based. You
Mhm.
have to give yourself the permission to I've worked this long and now work is optional. Let me actually take the option at some point. And having that mindset of I don't have to grind so hard for the life I want. right? And for women, especially high achieving women, sometimes that's hard for us to release control. So we have to talk about releasing control a little bit,
Mhm.
um, and releasing the grind a little bit, and that it's okay to actually enjoy life, to figure out what you like to do and actually do those things. And so it's so funny, you would think that it's easy to get to that point before a lot of us, even myself, right? It's not. It's not that easy. So the mindset with that, it really comes into play when it's like, okay, you got to give up a little bit of control and you got to know that it's okay. And you have to be confident in the plan that we've outlined that it will be okay for you to now. I see your face. You're like, oh man.
I'm
Look,
having visceral responses. Yes.
right. Because it's difficult because we've been in control for 40, 50, well, not 40, 50 years, but we've been in control for a long time.
Mhm.
I've been on my own and doing it my own way since I was 20, since I graduated high school. When I was out, I was out. So that's a long time. And you get to 50, 30 years of this in being in total control to now
Mhm.
let that go a little bit. This is kind of difficult. So it's a
A
mindset shift. You'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's so funny that you talked about the grind because that literally is my next question, and you've already led us there. How can women redefine success when stepping away from the constant grind?
You said it earlier, right? It is hard for us to not be achieving to something, right? So we just gotta just redefine what those achievements are. What does the success look like for us now? When we were working and building businesses, success was building a seven-figure business. Like now I'm building this business, now I'm successful, right? In a work optional lifestyle, we still need to have some type of success. And so it's just redefining what success could look like for you in a way that's meaningful for you. So, like for me personally, I feel like success after I'm done grinding and building my practice is giving back to the community. So, I'm really big on education, right? So, I'm still going to be working in my zone of genius, but just not in a grind mode, more like in an educational give back mode. And that's going to be my new like definition of success. How many people did I educate, this
Mhm.
month? So it's really just redefining what success looks like in a way that's meaningful for you.
I really That resonates with me so much because we have to be achieving something. That my brain is just wired that way. And to your point, again, legacy, how many people am I impacting?
Mm-hmm.
How many people are you educating? How many trips are you taking? How many new experiences are you able to offer your children or nieces and nephews or whomever that you love? Like, what is the new measure?
Yeah,
Huh,
that's it. What is the new measure?
what is the
Not
new
the seven-figure business anymore, right? We got that. We there. And
Okay, so can we stop right there? This is a
sure.
conversation I have been having with God.
Oh
Like,
boy. I don't know
for
what's on the
months.
mind. I might,
I'm
I
gonna
don't
bring
know.
you. You coming? Come on, you come into the conversation. Why? And not just in God and my colleagues.
Okay.
Why is that? Why is the seven-figure business such a measure of success? Because I was literally asking myself, and I've told a couple people there a few weeks ago. It was the middle of the day. I was taking lunch, and I was going to actually have a massage, and I could hear Holy Spirit whisper to me, like, "Are you successful?" Because my business is not seven figures yet,
Mhm,
and I've been chasing a number,
mhm,
but I have a beautiful life. I have a beautiful business. And sometimes we have to get to the place where we redefine
mhm,
success and where your whatever your business is making is enough. Your needs are met, you're
mhm.
able to give, you have a life of freedom. Yesterday I had to take my little girl to the ER.
Mm,
She's fine. I'll just say she's fine.
okay.
She's good.
Mhm,
But the freedom
mhm,
to cancel my day,
Yep.
spend 4 hours in the ER, the freedom to go have a massage, to be able to afford said massage, to
Mhm.
leave my home, to, you know what I'm saying? Like, when is enough enough?
Right.
We're always looking to
Yep.
7
So
figures, then it'll be 8, then it'll be 9. Like, when are we going to stop
because
and live?
we let society dictate what's the goal measure of success.
Yes.
Because at first, if you think about it, years ago, right, it was six figures.
Yes.
Making six figures, then you are successful.
Yes.
So per social media, six figures not enough. Right now it's seven figures, and so we've gotten into this mode where we let society dictate what successful means to us instead of our lifestyle. So, like you just described, you have the freedom to move exactly how you please. You're successful, but we're still chasing, right?
Yes, Lisa.
But we're still chasing what society tells us success is supposed to look like. And so that's what it is.
But who said, like, how, when do we make the shift from 6 to 7?
Yeah, I feel like you're right. When social media became popular and everybody started showing these lifestyles, and you're not successful until you have this lifestyle, I feel like it's social media fault because before social media, six figures was the gold standard.
I
When
mean, an
now,
autonomy is economy. Like, of course,
right,
6 figures is not what it was a decade ago,
right.
um,
But it
much
was
less
still the
nearly 2
gold
decades
standard. If
ago.
somebody reached six figures, they felt like they had made it in life.
Absolutely.
Now,
Got a little
if
house, got a
you
little
don't have
car.
$100,
Yes.
doing enough. So I feel like me personally, I feel like it's social media, the lifestyles that are portrayed on social media,
And they're fake.
and they're fake, but it's what we're inundated with it now, right? On all platforms. And so I feel like it has redefined what we as a people feel like success is. And like to me, what you just described is success.
I mean, I'm really, when I say that this has been a conversation that God has been dealing with me with, and I was talking to one of my clients who has been in the same spin of, we have a successful business, but we're not quite, you could be really
Mhm.
hugging and kissing 7 figures, but you ain't quite there. Like, you're just rubbing on it.
Right.
And you feel like you failed. And it's a lie from the pit of hell.
It is. It is. Get on social media. You'll be all right.
I mean, in comparison is the thief of all joy, because the people that are, saying that they are at 7 figures, many of them are not. Like, I want to say, don't quote me because I'll pull the stats and put them somewhere, but I want to say it's like 1%
Yeah.
of women owned businesses are actually at 7 figures.
Right. Yep.
So everybody that claims to be there is not there. So I'm sorry to take us off on that little tangent. But when we're talking about success,
Yep.
I think it's important to, first of all, not be comparing our success to others. And I'll
Mhm.
say it again,
Mhm.
comparison is the thief of all joy.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
we can't compare what makes you happy,
Right.
makes me happy. So, yeah,
Now,
I just stop.
combat that, I say to define your success, you need to figure out what makes you happy and what you're building towards, right? And what you want your life to look like. That's the true measure of success. If you're living as the life that you always imagine, it may not take seven figures to get there, to have that life. And for a lot of us, it doesn't take seven figures to have that type of freedom.
No.
Oh, right. But we're busting our butts trying to get to this number to say we're successful to society when we were successful 5 years ago, but we never acknowledged it.
And I would say, beyond busting our butts, we're killing ourselves.
Yep. We're missing moments, right?
Yes, and stressed out, and it's
Mhm.
impacting our health. That's a whole nother conversation. I won't go down that road. Um, what are some emotional hurdles that you feel like women are facing when it comes to letting go of these predefined measures of success?
Um, One, we're not doing enough. That's the biggest one, is that feeling of not doing enough. It sometimes can lead to like a worth type feeling.
Mhm.
If I'm not doing X, Y, Z, and doing all the things and moving, then am I worth it? Right. So it can get deep in some of the conversations I've had about, success and what that means and why are you working 80 hours a week? Because I feel like I have to. If I'm not, I'm not worth certain things. I hear that word thrown around a lot. So those are some of the emotional things that I've personally just had conversations around. The reason why we struggle and we strive so hard because that if we've reached these certain seven-figure marks, right now we've arrived and we are somebody we can hold our head high because we can say we've done these things, but it's really not all about that. But again, society has put certain measures on us that we're trying to live up to that we really don't have to.
Yeah, the release that we're talking about is like we're releasing societal standards and allowing the money to work for you
Mhm,
because there's plenty of folks who are making 6, 7 figures
mhm.
and don't have things in place,
Yeah. Mhm,
haven't done work with someone like you
mhm.
to make sure that this is actually really creating legacy,
Yes.
um, and all that. All right. I know
Mhm.
we need to wrap up. I could talk to you all day. What does what does legacy really mean to you personally?
Oh my goodness. I've thought about this a lot. Like, what legacy do I want to leave? Um, the legacy and a lot of it is not financial for me. It's paving a way that things can be done differently, right?
Mhm,
So like in my family, there's not a lot of business owners. We have a lot of W-2 workers. So showing that it is possible for a woman to build a business in a predominantly male industry, right? And be super successful. So that's a legacy that I want to leave, showing the possibility of having the life that you want that is possible.
mhm,
So being like representing things that are not already represented, right? Especially in my space. And then like for my daughter, showing her that there is a different way of doing things, right? You
mhm,
can be successful without having the grind and to work so hard. Like it is possible, you know. So and then from a monetary perspective, of course, we all have those goals, is to just leave a legacy for my family, leave a legacy of education, leave of legacy of ownership, right? I'm really big on ownership. So looking at all those different aspects and how can I personally affect the trajectory of like my daughter's daughter, like my grandkids and what they
yeah,
know about like what grandma did, right? Because I've heard a
right.
quote one time that said, it was something about if we knew we were kings and queens, would we operate differently?
Mm,
When we knew what our heritage was, would we move differently, right? And so that kind of stuck with me. It's like, well, if my grandkids and my great grandkids knew who their grandmother and what she did, would it cause them to move a little differently, right?
mm,
Because they know they have greatness in their bloodline.
absolutely.
So looking at it from that angle. So
I love that. I love that. Oh, yes, they will move differently.
mhm.
And so many of those stories get lost, um, for a whole lot of reasons.
Mhm.
What advice do you have for women who are late to the wealth building game, but are ready to start now?
It's never too late. It's never too late. We may feel like we're behind, but it's never too late. You're only too late to me if you never start. So it's like start somewhere, start figuring out again, like that framework I gave you. What does that lifestyle look like? Where are you currently? And then how do we close the gap? Right? You may have to make a few lifestyle changes now in order to be a little bit more aggressive, but figuring out is it worth it, right? So it's never too late. Just figure out where you currently are, figure out where you want to be,
Mhm.
right? And figure out what that gap is and how to close it.
I love that. How do you want your clients to feel after they work with you?
Oh man, they feel. I want them to feel more in control. So my framework is clarity, control, and confidence. So I say that all the time. And so the clarity comes from really getting clear on what you want, right? What you want life to look like. But that control piece is the part that I really kind of get off on. It's just like, let's now take control over our dollars because money is just a tool. That's all it
Absolutely.
is. Money is a tool to get something done. You are your CFO. How are you directing your dollars? How are your dollars influencing your life? So getting that control back. And then once you have clarity and control, you automatically move and talk a little bit different. Your confidence automatically goes up. And so it's just a direct result of the first two C's. So that's
Absolutely.
how I look for.
Absolutely. So before you go, I want to have a little fun with you.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you some questions. I want you to give me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay. What is your go to coffee or tea order?
I'm real plain when it comes to coffee. So I literally get like an Americano and add some creamer. So so plain when it comes to coffee. I'm not a whole latte girl. So yeah, Americano, leave room for creamer.
Okay. A mantra or quote or scripture that keeps
Mhm.
you grounded.
Everything is always working out for me.
I love that.
Anytime things feel weird, everything is always working out for me.
That's what I'm mine. The scripture in Psalms at the end, everything is working together for my good.
Mm,
Like, yeah. So
see,
it's very similar.
on the same page.
Here, yes.
Mhm.
Um, a book or podcast that you recommend to women in leadership or they're trying to build wealth.
So I recently just discovered this one, like within the past week, but I've been obsessed listening to her on YouTube. So her name is Emma. Let me make sure I say this right. Greed, Emma Greed, Grede. But I discovered her last week. She did a Mel Robbins podcast and it popped up on my timeline. And so I started listening to her. And from there, I'm just like, I like her spunkiness. Like I like how
Mhm.
like she is. Like she's just like no excuses. Go after what you want type personality. So
Yeah.
that
And I think
which
she's a Leo too.
is she? I would
I'm
be
pretty sure she is.
we got to
She
look
is
that
the
up.
co-founder of
Like
Skim.
Skim and some other stuff.
No,
When I
she's
started
not.
looking into her, like
Libra.
she's a Libra, okay. But yeah, so I just love her energy. So in
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that's one
agree.
person.
She's good. She's good.
Yeah, I just want to
It's
listen to it.
relatively new. I think it's relatively new. She
Okay,
just merged it recently,
okay.
but she's such a wealth of information. So I
Mhm.
those. Yeah, that's a good one.
Got a few of those in my save to watch later.
Yes, yes. Finish the sentence for me. Freedom feels like.
Freedom feels like living.
Mm,
Freedom feels like living to me. Finally being able to live exactly how I choose. It's like
oh, that's good. That's good. Selena, this has been such a rich conversation. Like no pun intended. You've given us so much to think about when it comes to building wealth and not just building wealth, but building legacy and lives of freedom, right? Like that we can show up in powerfully. Thank you so much for being with us
Oh,
today.
I've had a fantastic time. Thanks
I
for having
absolutely
me.
loved every bit of this conversation. To our listeners, we will have all of the ways that you can connect with Selena in the show notes. But until next time, stay in relationships, stay connected, and stay rooted. See you next time. Bye bye.